Anglican Church of the Ascension at Kubo Ibadan, New Estate Baptist Church Surulere, and All Saints Anglican Church Yaba. In 2018, he studied organ at the Muzon Diploma School of Music and currently teaches organ at the Muzon Basic School of Music. He founded Octave Choral Ensemble, leads table tunes, and serves as principal consultant at Recital Music Company. Please join me as we welcome Mr. Tope Olaranjo.
Okay, we'll begin regardless. Thank you all for coming. It's a great privilege to be here to share my knowledge and ideas with great men. So, please check me out. Requested that the group report I'm about to discuss. You see the color, so we can follow together, right? And this section is going to be very, very interactive. Playing the organ is a practical act. So beyond talk, that we're doing on all the platforms, we're going to see ourselves. So I believe both of us here are on. So get ready. I'm going to see anybody that is feeling easy to speak. And we're going to do some demonstrations here. I hope we're all going to do that. Thank you for saying yes. All right. So the topic here today is effective organ playing in Nigerian churches, hymn leadership, and practical organ registration. And in Nigerian churches, it's a very, very key factor because we are a very, very peculiar nation. Let me put it that way. And we have our own peculiarities when it comes to playing the organ in this country. So we have to look at that on a focused note rather than general note. The objectives, the takeaways we are going to have from this seminar this morning, we'll be reading the congregational hymn singing with clarity and confidence. Clarity before confidence. So let's note that. Choose practical registrations for different contexts. Congregation accompanying the soloist, and the choir as well. It's at different parts. Applying historical informed listening. The organ as an orchestra. Harmonize intentionally, a very, very key point. And I think from the last workshop that we had, that Mr. Bedo did, he captured almost all of these things. So this is going to be a form of reminder as well. It says here, lead, don't mislead. Finally, build a lifelong learning habit and excellence in service. So, because of our time, I'm supposed to do this for 1.5 hours, but I have to bring it down because we spend a lot of time on permit that. So we can bring it down to like an hour. So I was skim through a lot of things. After the workshop, I can send this to the group so we can all read it. Quite self-explanatory. So I'll just go back a little bit to early years when the organ was still coming. Many of us really don't, I believe many of us really don't have an idea of how this instrument came into place. How did we get to, what is the essence of having 2 manuals, 3 manuals, 4 manuals, 5 manuals, 6 manuals? It's not just design. It's not just for the state. The organ, like we always say, is supposed to be a one-man orchestra. Now, the orchestra itself has various families. We have the strings, the woodwind, the brass, the what else? We have percussion, exactly. And And then on the other hand, we're expected to be able to replicate this, and one man should do that. Right? But basically, we play the organ without adequate knowledge of this. So again, we'll go back just a bit and we'll think through a lot of things. Let's talk about the Baroque period. In the Baroque period, that's around the 1600s. Many of the organs that existed then were only 4 per manual, right? And it was very, very customary to have the 2 manuals. We had the great manual and the choir, often known as hospital. Now, the great, of course, was the first manual that existed. But oftentimes it was discovered that the design of the great was sufficient, very sufficient for congregational singing, but too much for choral accompaniment or for solo accompaniment. And then the second manual came into place, and that is why it was named choir. It is a replica of the great, but with a gentler and milder nature. So if you look at the design of the organ, and that's another way to be able to tell the get of an organ, you look at the design. The choir is like it's a mini great, exactly. So what it does is to give you the great, but in a very mild form. As time went on, and of course as music developed, let's still stay in the Baroque era. One of the characteristics of Baroque compositions, the music scholars here will know, is terrace dynamics, loud or soft. But there was no graduation between crescendo, diminuendo. But as time went on, all of these things came into place, right? And then we now had the introduction of the swell manual. And as the name implies, it can swell in and out. I hope I'm making sense. So if we have an understanding of how these manuals function, we won't get confused. When you find yourself sitting down on a 6 manual organ you're seeing for the first time, you always know the first thing to do. You know what each manual stands for. Right? So let me go over it again. The great being the master manual, the choir serving as the mini great, where you don't need to use the big sources of the great which you can go to the choir. And then the swell is used for more expression. Right? Another point I want to bring up is, in those days, many great composers worked hand in hand with a lot of organ builders. The great German organ builder, Silbermann, whenever he finishes building any organ, he will call JS back to come and vet and approve the organs. Initially, from what I read, Bach used to disapprove a lot of things that Silbermann used to say before the sound, especially piano. But Silbermann always sought after Bach's approval until eventually Bach became almost an ambassador for Silbermann's organs. Many of his organs are still functional to date. In France as well, we had the great composer, Sister Frank. He worked very closely with Cavalco, who built most of the great organs you can still find in France to date. Also, in the UK, Henry Willis I, who had the lineage of organ builders, he was Henry Willis I. His grandson, Henry Willis III, took over when he was born some other time. Henry Willis built most of the great organs we have in the UK: Liverpool Cathedral, Westminster, Hereford Cathedral, Salisbury Cathedral, St. Paul's Cathedral. Right? They worked hand in hand with Samuel Weston, W.T. Best. These were organists who worked closely with organ builders, and organ builders sought their consent, so to speak, on their building. Now the question is, how many of us are able to actually claim so much knowledge of the instrument we play to a point where we can have that kind of technical relationship with organ builders? The organ is not just, it is an orchestra. Right? So every stop here requires special attention. if you coordinate an orchestra, for example, you have the strings on the side, you have the winds, violin 1, violin 2, brass 1, brass 2, and all of those things. If one trumpeter is playing out of tune, what do? You stop every other person and ask the trumpeter to play again. But we don't keep the instrument the same way. We just pull all the stuff. So the reason why we're here today is to learn and be more attentive to these things and be able to pick out and be more in control of the instrument. Let me go to the next slide. So I'm categorizing organ playing accompaniment into three. Accomplished, let me say congregational accompaniment, which is what many of us lead the congregation, right? Lead the melody, that is, provide a clear and steady impulse. The congregation relies on you for timing and confidence. Okay, I'll come back to this. Preparation and intros. Rehearse challenging hymns thoroughly. Set introductions confidently to establish tempo immediately. Now, please let me just say something about this one. We generally take hymn playing for granted. I don't know, when I started playing the organ, there was this general idea that playing the hymns is not so important as playing organ. The way we rate organ pieces above hymn playing. Technically, maybe organ pieces can be more difficult, but hymn playing goes a long way, and if you pay special attention to every detail of it, it can get more complicated than playing recital. When you play your organ pieces, that's your show. But I think it's a more tedious job to lead 100 people in singing. Do you agree with me? I think it's more tedious. So we shouldn't move down on hymn playing. It is very important that we still establish that. Okay, I think it's now. Now, can I ask, sincerely, by a show of hands, how many of us will has the hymns that supposed to be on some or something?